A Fox Business alert, a surprise to the upside for housing. Existing home sales up 2.7% in January, and economists had actually expected a decline.
So, should we be encouraged or still curb our enthusiasm?
We've got some of the industry's top experts from all over the country joining us for that. Prudential Douglas Elliman Vice Chairman Dolly Lenz, Becker Studios partner Kirsten Becker, and David Licken of Mortgage Banking Solutions. Good to have all of you here. David, let me just get right to you. Looking at this number, do you take one number and say, okay, that's it, we're at the bottom, things are getting better? Because we also have some really negative sentiment out there.
Yeah, you're right, Liz. The problem is, activity's up, prices are down is the problem, and we got a whole lot of foreclosures coming into the market. So this is actually a good sign that we're starting to see a bottom form. We're starting to see stability. I'm taking this as an overall positive that we're starting to get close to the bottom.
Well, Dolly, I know Manhattan real estate is an exception to every rule that's out there in real estate, but looking outside of Manhattan now, where would you be putting your money if you were investing in real estate?
Well, if you're investing, I guess anywhere you either plan to retire, so could be a Florida, could be a Vegas, could be a Phoenix, a lot of places like that, all are not at bottom, but are getting there. So I think a place like that would be a great place to put your money now. And I have to tell you that there's almost no better perfect storm. Look at it. Low interest rates, still very low interest rates, very low pricing. It's actually a terrific time to go pick something up.
I know David doesn't like the pricing, Kirsten, the fact that prices are falling, but here we have activity. This is almost like the real free market at work, isn't it?
Well, that's it. That's what it's going to take to regenerate this housing market. And as soon as investors and consumers perceive value, that's when they're going to jump back in, as long as there's household stability and security. So the lending markets really need to start to loosen up a little bit. Don't you think, David?
Well, David?
Absolutely.
Well, David, let me ask you about Freddie and Fannie, because there is a lot of talk about reforming those institutions. And if that happens, and Lord knows it should, they need reforming, wouldn't that put even more pressure on the sellers?
Well, it's going to put pressure on the sellers. We've got to get through the foreclosure issue. We do need Fannie and Freddie in there to continue to add stability for a period of time. Dave, us free market guys would love to see Fannie and Freddie out of the picture,
Absolutely.
But it's not realistic.
ASAP.
It's not realistic. ASAP, but it's not realistic that that's going to happen given the sentiment what's going on. But look at, to the point about investing, isn't the age-old attitude about investing is buy low, sell high?
Right.
Can prices get much lower and the activity's good? I tell you, this is a time for investors.
Okay, we've heard that before, Dolly. You guys are perennial optimists. Now's the best time. Six months later, now's the best time.
Employment, employment, employment. We still need employment to look a little better.
And it doesn't right now, Dolly.
No,
and people will not purchase homes now knowing that they have a mortgage yet they don't have a job.
Exactly, and how could they? And you see, if you have a job, your neighbor doesn't have a job. So that's a real problem. I think until we fix employment...
Well, and
Kirsten, go ahead.
The cycle continues. Yeah, the cycle continues because people aren't investing in real estate, which provides a myriad of jobs, everything from the lending officer to the title officer to the construction that needs to be done and the improvements and the catering truck that comes on site to feed everybody once that construction is underway. There's a lot of jobs that suffer when real estate isn't moving. So now that we are starting to see some good value out there, sellers need to be prepared to negotiate
what
a
about
lot.
On what end, David? Are there more bargains to be had on the high end, the middle end, or the low end?
Well, the high end is definitely seeing where we're seeing our greatest depreciations. It's interesting, some of those properties that are very desirable in desirable areas are selling for cash. It's 32% of the home sales that just came out were sold for cash.
Wow.
That's significant.
Wow.
The values that are most stable are in the lower end of the market. But I'm telling you, 23% of the sales that the National Association of Realtors just issued were done by investors. That's significant. The investors are taking advantage of it. Time consumers start doing so too.
But can we trust those numbers?
If investors
given everything going on,
are doing it.
Do you, or Dolly, you're saying you don't trust the numbers?
Well, I'd love to see a disclaimer. I'd love to see some reconciliation between what everyone else is reporting, what they're reporting. I really would like to know, how do you come up with your numbers? Where do you get them? I know maybe you're supposed to look at the rosy side of the numbers, but I think a disclaimer would be very helpful so we all understand what we're really looking at when they say.
What are you most suspicious of?
Yes.
Well, I think a lot of things. I think I'm suspicious of inventory levels primarily. Okay, because they're reporting average across the country of 7.5 months. I don't know where they're looking. I don't see 7.5 months.
What do you see?
Close to 3 years. So that's a huge
2 to 3
difference
years.
from 7.5 months.
Kirsten, we've been focusing on the buy side. What on the sell side? If I've been sitting on my property for months, if not years now, waiting for the prices to come up a little, do I continue to sit on them a little longer, or is now the time to start really coming down into the price that buyers want?
Well, I think like everybody's saying, you need to look at your job stability and look at your future and can you hang on? And if investors are getting in now, then maybe it is a good time to try to hang on and see if you can recover some of your value. But until these lending institutions start looking at everything on a case-by-case basis, sellers don't have a lot of options because buyers just can't buy. I don't know if we're calling it, FICO forgiveness, and I'm not suggesting we need to go back to like fantasy financing, but the lending institutions really need to look at everything individually and decide if people have a history of doing well and paying their mortgages, they should be lent again.
And David, shadow inventory, what the banks are holding, these foreclosed homes, hundreds of thousands of them possibly, are they ever going to put those out on the market because they can't hold them on their books anymore, or do they write them down?
Well, they're writing them down, and I think it's been wise the way they've been handling. They've been putting them out little bit by little bit. If they dump the whole shadow inventory out there in the market, I hate to think what that could do to values. I think what they're doing by just measuring it out a bit by bit, that has been good for the markets. It's allowing us to have activity. It's encouraging people to come in. This has been well handled as far as I'm concerned.
But is it encouraging people falsely? That really becomes a question.
Dolly had to get the last word. Dolly Lenz, Kirsten Becker, David Lykken. Good to see the three of you. Thank you very much.